Thanks for the heads up. Do we have sound now? Is it in there? Is this thing on? Is this thing live? Is it too loud? I think it's a little too loud. I'll bring the level down. I don't want to peak. Is it peaking? We good? Let me know. How's that sound going? Good? You can't hear me. There it is. I forgot to hit the audio button because when at 2 minutes when it's queuing up, I didn't want, to hear me yelling if something was going on. Cheryl, hello. Scott Shaw, Laura, good. John, you can hear me. I'm not peaking, right? The sound level's not too garbly. Just checking that audio level. Good. Well, welcome. Good evening. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Keep it warm. If you're in the Midwest, it got really bitter cold. We had some killer winter days, but those clear winter days make for great photographs. I was checking the eagle count along the lock and dams on the Mississippi River throughout Illinois, and they were low, 3, 4 here, 9 there. But Burlington, Iowa showed promise with 30 eagles that they spotted. Well, the nature gods were smiling upon us, myself, James Gustin, and Roger Holdman. We went on an eagle safari, so we drove down there on Friday, and we spent all day Saturday at Lock and Dam 18. And lo and behold, it was cold, it was cold, it was cold. 10 degrees plus the wind chill. And that made for great conditions because there was a lot of ice on the Mississippi River, and we had over 150 eagles that were gathering in and around Lock and Dam 18, fishing in the trees. They have 2 active eagles nests. So it was a great, great weekend, great eagle safari. So we had eagles, tundra swans, Kestrel hawks, of course, Canadian geese, a bunch of deer, both doe and bucks. So let's dive right in here. We'll go to a nice overhead shot here. We can see everything. Make sure. So here's the lineup of tools that we were experimenting and playing with this weekend. So this is the R5 with the EF 600mm f4 version 1, heavy as a tank. This is about 12 pounds with the EF to RF converter. Works really, really well, but it's heavy. The 100-500, and this is on another R5. The RF800, and then the R6 with the EF 100-400. All great equipment. But I do have to say, this lens is impressive. The 800mm f11 STM, totally able to handhold. IS is amazing. Focus is amazing. Now, I do have to let you know that with the aperture f11, we only get the center box of focus points. Yes, Dawn?
You still have that computer on. I can hear feedback from the computer on there. Turn the mute button on.
All right, the mute is on. Let me get to the audio over on this second computer here really quick. Just so Dawn doesn't pick up that audio, make sure it's mute. There we go, it's muted. All right, so I will talk more about that, but can we see this overall layout? So this was my workflow over the weekend. I downloaded, backed up everything to Narbox. We could pop in the SD cards in here, automatically back up and verify, which I did. And then for the CF Express, I pop in the card reader, download it, all to the Narbox, which I then could explore wirelessly with the iPad. And then I was able to take these images in and go straight to social media if I wanted to. All right, so let's come back over here and see what kind of questions you guys got going. Kapu, welcome. How's the autofocus on the 800? Man, this 800mm is crazy cool. Now, I'm going to show you this one print, and I'll put it on the overhead camera so you can see it. I posted this image live, so I wanted to make a print of it because this is where, the tire hits the pavement, so to speak. This is shot handheld with the EF 800mm lens cropped 100%. And it printed amazing. This is a 17 by 22. Here's another print, handheld, in flight, and this is also cropped with the 800mm f11 STM. So before we do that, let me pull up some files and we could cruise through a few. And I will share my desktop here. Let me get to that. Okay. Should be on my desktop. Yes. Yes. I'm going to move my monitor so I can make sure we're seeing it. Okay. So here we are. We're in Photo Mechanic. And these are the few images that I just grabbed quickly. JPEGs out of camera. So we'll make this bigger. Let me give me a thumbs up. Let me make sure I can see my comments over here. Make sure you guys can see this okay. So this is the EOSR6. And this was actually Roger Holdeman was a photographer came with. He wants to get into wildlife photography, so he did this photo safari. And he wanted to see the difference between the 100-400, the 100-500, and then he borrowed from Sigma the 60-600 plus the 1.4 converter. All great glass, all great lenses. My personal preference and drawback was that the Sigma was heavy if you're going to hand hold it. And then the more you zoom it out, it gets a barrel effect because the front lens element, when it zooms out, is very heavy, where the 100-500 was extremely well balanced. And Roger got fatigued and he started using the monopod. So then he switched and went to the 100-500, and then you could put the 1.4 on this or the 2x on this. The image stabilization in the lens and in the R bodies coupled together, working in tandem, truly outperformed the Sigma. I'm not trying to knock the lens. It's a good lens, but I'm just saying it's personal preference and choice. So this is just so lightweight. You could walk around with this thing, and when you're backpacking, ounces become pounds. Yes, Dawn? Read the comments. All right, let me pop over here. John, the autofocus performance with electronic shutter with bird and flight, how well did the autofocus stick? Which one? Babe, I'm all the way down. I am, babe. As the comments pop up for me, that's all I see. Funky clicking with the screen share and feedback. Funky clicking. Oh, trade mics again. See what happens. The only problem with using the desktop mic is when I turn. So let's see, how's that? Let's see, the clicking is gone. If that's any better, I think something's going on with my Sennheiser packs as I move around. Let me know in the comments about that. The screen sharing should be totally fine. I'm not seeing any movement. It's just when I move around. All right, so here we go again. So this was the R6, and this is Roger's photograph. And he was hand holding it as I shared before. So doing really well. This is again, Roger's photograph. And it's really nice to see these images coming from a person who's not a seasoned photographer. Didn't hear clicking before, but now the sound is good. Peter, right, better? Okay. All right, so I went to the desktop mic, so hopefully that's better, and I'll try and keep close to it. So this image here, these are straight out of camera JPEG files, and we have the RAWs backed up. But this is impressive. So we're going to zoom in on this file 100%. This is the STM 800 f11 handheld. Just incredible. Just incredible. So again, with f11, we do not get the entire field of view of focus points because it's a darker lens, f11. So what happens is you just get a center square about that big in both the R5 and R6. Now within that square, it will face detect, eye detection, it will track all of that within that square. but it doesn't expand out. And that's due to the loss of light at aperture 11. It still performed outstanding. So we're going to go through a few more of these. This is the R5 with the 100-500 at, where are we at here? 500 millimeters all the way out. Handheld, amazing performance, super fast at acquiring focus, maintaining focus, and staying. So with this photograph, we had some atmosphere coming off of the lake, cold air, warm water. Yet when I locked it on the Canadian geese, it stayed locked, even when steam would come before them. So it might go from eye detection to head detection, and then when it couldn't even detect the head, it went to a rectangular or very horizontal box to maintain focus on the geese. As that atmosphere dissipated, then it would go to the head, then it would go to the eye. This is a photograph I captured using the 100-500 handheld, walking on ice down to the water's edge to photograph these tundra swans in some open backwater along the Mississippi River. Same thing, just getting down low, pausing, and this was silent mode, John. Getting back to you, John had a question about silent mode in the comments. Held focus, it was beautiful. So as I got closer to the swans, and the R5 and R6 are a lot quieter than both the 5D4 and especially the 1DX series. So even with mechanical shutter, it's a lot quieter. But we did use an awful lot of silent shutter. So this is the Kestrel Hawk, and I'll show you this print. And this is the actual full frame photograph using the 800mm, and I have the metadata on the side of the screen here. We also have our histogram, just so you could see the colors and the data straight out of camera. So I'm going to move over here, and I'm going to go to the print, and we're going to do the overhead camera. Let me move this stuff out of the way so we can actually see the quality that comes out of 100% crop with the 800mm f11 lens. I am so excited about this lens because you could walk around with it handheld. So let's put this print under here. And I'm going to zoom it in. Pretty incredible, pretty incredible. So let me make the desktop or that camera full. Here we go. Oh, my counter is still showing. There we go. That's just incredible. Incredible. That's 100% crop and then printed 17 by 22 on Hahnemuhle paper. So this is the Hahnemuhle fine art paper museum etching. The texture of the paper and the fine art with the matte gives it a real watercolor feel. Here's another photograph, and this is an eagle in flight, and I could show you the series of these images where this eagle landed on the ground, gathered up some of these grasses because it's feathering the nest because they are mating. This is a really unique situation where we have one female eagle and two male eagles. They've been together for 3 years. And you could actually Google the webcam for this. It's on YouTube, and it's under the Stewards of the Mississippi River Trio. It's pretty amazing and rare, but beautiful print, the detail that's in here. So let me switch over back to the desktop and we'll pull those up. And then I'll check for some comments here. All right. So this is that eagle as it landed on the ground and it was gathering grasses. I thought it grabbed some prey, but it wasn't the case at all. It was just gathering some of those dry reed grasses to feather the nest. And it takes off, and that's zoomed in. That's 100% crop on a horizontal frame. And then this is the full frame as it banked and turned closer to me. It held focus. If I could acquire it and keep it in the frame, it would hold focus. This is shooting straight up into the sunlight. As the eagle passed, I'm shooting into the light, which could be a really tough focus situation. I was in focus as it was off in good light. Then as we came past the sun, I kept photographing the entire way, and it held focus. So let's go to some of the raw files. Let me check some questions here. Joe, what do you got? You have the EOSR, but it doesn't track birds in flight all that well. Does the R5 and R6 track birds in flight better? Yeah, there's a big difference between the EOSR and the R5 and R6. It really upped the game, and I agree with you. I have an EOSR, and I was doing birds in flight, and I did make some adjustments in the way it would track focus. I sped it up. It was a little better, but not on par with what the R5 and R6 could do. With the face, head, eye detection, and the rate at which it acquires focus, if you could keep it in the frame, your yield is going to go up tremendously. So this whole Eagle Safari, I would say I was right around 98% in focus. So it was just crazy cool. So here's the in-camera JPEG files, and they're currently in file name, and I could switch these to capture time, which will intersperse the cameras. So this is me photographing with the EOSR5 in the 100-500. Now remember, same light, same exposure. I'm in manual mode, +1, because we want the tones of the whites to be white. If we listen to the camera meter, well, then that snow is going to turn gray. So there's a whole nother series we could do on just photographing for tonalities and exposure. Jake, I'm a ninja. I don't know about that. I just love getting out there and I love practicing. And the more I understand the gear, the better I can make it perform. And in fact, this gear has gotten so good and I'm getting so comfortable with it. And I've set it up to be really intuitive that the gear is getting out of the way and allowing for more creative shots. Jensen, you're curious, is the R6 autofocus as robust as the R5? They are. It's pretty much the same. The basic difference between the two, some of it's weather sealing and the magnesium alloy bodies, 8K video, those kinds of things. But the autofocus is spot on the same, right? Faster frame rates with the R5, much larger file size. You got a, don't quote me, but I think it's a 45 megapixel and a 26 megapixel, in that ballpark, in that range between the two. Hey, Bob Graves, welcome. So I'm just checking some more of these questions. Nikki, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Steven, thanks. The Kestrel, I've never really had an opportunity to photograph him. Did I already mention the weight of the 100-500? I didn't mention the exact weight on any of these. I don't have that information, but it's all on Canon's website, and they are well balanced and lightweight. I will say this. So here's the R6, and again, we were just comparing the EF version. I will say this, in the extreme cold, which it was over the weekend, I find the battery grip to be a must. I love the battery grip just for the size, fits my hand better, and for vertical control. Roger photographed the entire first day without the battery grip, and he went through 4 batteries when they were in there singularly throughout Friday. Saturday, I put the battery grip on for him, and he went the entire day with just 2 batteries. Why the difference in performance? I couldn't exactly tell you, but all I know is it was colder on Saturday, and we had more battery life, and he actually shot more frames. So with the battery grip, much better battery life. I did use the 600 on day 2, and the 600 with F4 with a 1.4 converter. So let's go to some of these other photographs. Oh, and as I was walking down to the tundra swans, I heard a pecking above my head, and there you go. There was a woodpecker, right? So 500mm lens, beautiful. Same light, same exposure. I wish I had access to the 1, 4, and 2x RF converters, but when I borrowed this equipment from CPS, they didn't have it in stock at the time. Jensen, did I enable continuous autofocus or just back button? Jensen, the way I got my camera set up now is I don't use back button focus. It's really intuitive and a change up because as you press the shutter button down slightly, you're focusing. As you let it off, it will stop focusing. But the tracking, we could continue. And you could also take control of the focus point should you want to, either by the touch screen or by this joystick right here. So with the R system and the way the autofocus is and the way I have these cameras configured, I've totally gotten away from back button focus, and it's in no way hindering me in the performance of the camera. So let me scroll down. These are all the tundra swans. So let's get to something of the Kestrel. Let's see where we got them. None of these are in flight, but these are me hand holding the Kestrel 800mm lens, handheld, just beautiful, just outstanding, right? Let me get to where the eagles were flying. And this was all the first day. Eagles coming in and out of the nest. So it would track and lock on and hold focus even in this area here. So getting into the trees, right? It would hold focus, would stay in there. And then if it did struggle, I would go to a single focus point. Oh, Scott, you're watching on your phone. Yeah, you can't see the XF on there. I will push this video to YouTube once we complete it. So here's that series of the eagle on the ground. So I'm using the R5, continuous focus, silent mode, so I could get a higher frame rate. Mechanical shutter, again, don't quote me, I don't have all the stats memorized. I think mechanical shutter is 12 or 14 frames per second. The minute you go to silent shutter, we are at 20 frames per second. So this is the 800. The eagle landed. I thought it had some prey between its talons, but it was just digging up some grass. And then it took off. It held focus. There, I lost it. I came off the eagle. This is autofocus, but watch how fast it comes back. I'm still shooting. Boom, 2 frames, and we're back in focus on the eagle. Let me zoom in here. Find my bird. Where am I at? There it is. There we go. Reacquired focus. I'm panning and moving because this is fast. Keep going, keep going. All the way through. I lost focus again because I was leading the bird too much. So he came out of frame. I was going too fast as I was panning. It jumped and caught focus on the grass in the background. And then I just slowed down and I let the bird come into the center box. Boom, it acquired focus just like that. Here we go. Sweet. I mean, it's just amazing, right? So if you could keep it in that frame, you're going to keep it in focus. This one, I totally blew it. I came off the bird because, again, I was panning too fast. I got to get out and practice with that and just slowly stay with the bird. But what's so impressive is the way it acquires focus again. As I slowed down and I course corrected, it came right in on the bird. Landed again. There we go. So here we are in flight. Check this out. I mean, this is just crazy. You could see it's got like a little black dot underneath its eye and the detail in the feathers. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what more you'd want. And this lens is like $800, the f11 800mm lens. So, and the way it will fold down, compact, it is way lighter in weight than both the RF100-500 or a 70-200. It's just incredible. I could post in the comments the weights of these lenses when we get off, right from the Canon website, so I don't mess up any of the statistics and provide you wrong information. Let's see, what else do we have? Here we go. We were popped over to Lock and Dam 14, which is under construction. So it kind of spooked the eagles away. Here's the series where the eagle came across the sun. So locked on, and now we're starting to get that dull contrast because we're shooting right into the light. But let me find the bird. I'm zoomed in again. 100%, it's in focus. That's a tough situation, shooting right into the light. Back out. There you go. Look at the detail in the feathers. Coming across the sun. Held focus. Boom, boom, boom. And then away. Outstanding. Someone saying, my R goes from 10 frames per second down to 5 frames per second in servo mode. Do the R5 and R6 slow down as well? That has to do a lot with the lens you have. So this beast, this is an old lens, version 1, 604, with the adapter, the EF to RF adapter. I cannot get high speed out of this in mechanical shutter. In silent shutter, I can. So the fastest this will shoot, I believe, again, I'd have to look it up, is 7 to 10 frames per second. But in silent shutter, I get the full 20 frames per second, even though I'm in high speed plus. Now, if I'm using an RF lens, everything goes to high speed plus, including the STM lens. So good question. Oh, thanks, Pete. You're putting it in. The 2.77 pounds, is that for the 100 to 500? Or is that for, this is the F11 doesn't feel 2 pounds. That feels like a pound. Doesn't feel much weight to it at all. Let me scroll a little further down here. Even in tough situations, coming from sky to different backgrounds, totally picking it up, holding focus. And these are all handheld. This is Lock and Dam 15. So it's the R5 at 100. These were, messing around when we were downloading. James was messing around with the 100 to 500 in, our hotel room, just checking it out. This is 5,200 ISO, and it will still focus, right, in low light. We were trying to find the minimum focusing distance. It's incredible. So handheld at 100 millimeters. Oh no, he's got that lens at 200, 250, 254 millimeters, zooming in. But that's the R5 at 51,200 ISO. Just crazy. Available light. So here we are back out the next day. We saw some deer. I was a little late because I was getting out of the car. And Roger was already out. Oh, that guy's already shed an antler. Look at that. Already beginning to shed. But 100% zoom. Really, really a great lens. This is the Moon, handheld, 1/1000th of a second, 800 ISO, low light, low contrast, and still doing an amazing job, handheld. That's just incredible. So Canon's onto something with these STM lenses. Here's some eagles. Let's see where we at. So this is over at Lock and Dam 18 in Burlington. This is on a ProMediaGear tripod with a Katana Junior head, the 600 f4 with a 1.4 converter on the R5. In flight, beautiful. Dig that. Look at the eyes. Incredible. So this is an old lens. I have had the opportunity of using the newer 600 version 3. That's stellar. Now with the version 3 lens, you do get high speed plus because it's a newer lens, newer technology. Let's see. So I mostly shot with the 800 handheld, not with your gimbal. No, that was just the first day, John. And then I let James use the 800. And then here I am, day 2. I'm using the 600 f4 with a 1.4 converter. And then I would walk around with the 100-500. Face, head, and eye detection is definitely amazing. So let's go up here again, see what else we've got for eagles in flight. So, we get some. And this was an incredible day. At any given time, there were 25, 30, 40 eagles fishing at once. But if you pick one bird like this one and you stay locked on, it will hold focus. So it's just crazy how well the R5 and the R6 did. Let's pop in, take a look at these. I have yet to call any of these and see any of them. Look at that. Flying straight in. Oh, I lost my bird. There we go. So again, this is off a gimbal, 2,000th of a second, aperture 8 with the 600 f4 with a 1.4 converter, giving us effectively an 840 lens. So we had light coming in and out. So this is old school glass, an EF using the adapter. Where are we at here? Here's a trio. 2 adults. This guy actually is eating the fish, and the sub-adult is looking for an opportunity. Which bird was I on? Here we go. Yep, I was totally focused on the eagle with the fish. So he's eating it. And that's at aperture 7.1. So not much depth of field between these 3. It was a long throw, but you could see all these dots here in the background were all the other eagles sitting it out. And that was a cold morning, about 10 degrees. Let me see if I have a frame. Here we go. Oh no, that's not it. I took a photograph of a bunch of eagles in the trees. And even with obstacles like this, so we're photographing and you have a post coming in the frame, you could see it's holding focus, here, let me just grab those files. So we're gonna start here, 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 here. All right. So he acquired focus on the bird, and this time I'm on a gimbal, so I could pan much better. Staying with it, he's in focus. We have an obstacle. In the old days, with back focus, and before we had face, head, eye detection, I would have to let off focus so it did not grab focus on to the object in the foreground. Still in focus, still in focus. Dig this, folks. Now, I have made some tweaks in my settings. That bird is still in focus. There's the fish in its talons. We're passing by. Boom. Dig that. Another obstacle. And that bird held focus. Impressive. Impressive. Jensen, you'll love that. Here we are. Another bunch of eagles in flight. Scroll further through. I got to cull some of these down, and I'll post some after I process them. Looks like I have some double downloads in here. So here is a bird sitting in a tree, and this is using the Canon EF 600mm with the 1.4 converter. This is handheld because as your car is kind of like a blind going through this forest area along the river. We were off-roading a bit, and then all the windows down, heat off, And then you see the minute you'd open up that car door and get out, the bird would fly. So if you're in the car, it's kind of like a blind. And I just handheld it out the window and captured a few frames. That's a challenge with that old 600. Scott Shaw, were I an auto white balance? Someone's asking. No. Although I do find that auto white balance in the R5 and R6 has been the best in any auto white balance I've used for a Canon camera. I just like to change it up to go manual, because as you change your composition, if you go from the sky to the water to the trees, auto white balance is going to slightly change the tonality of the color. Same way with auto exposure. Same light, same exposure, same white balance. So it was a cool blue day. I just had everything set to 6,500 degrees Kelvin. I like to lock in all of my exposures and settings because it makes the back end much cleaner. And I mean, look at the consistency of these files out of camera. So this is another one, handheld. This is a JPEG file with the 600. Beautiful. That's a struggle to handhold that thing. But again, if I got out of the car, he would have been spooked and flush right out of the trees and gone. Here is Bigfoot. This is Roger, and we were walking in the low wetlands trying to see if we could get closer to photograph some of the eagles on the ground. But when you're walking, you flush them out of the trees. The car, not a problem. Let me just scroll down a few more, and I'll check your questions here. See where we're at. I'm looking forward to culling out a handful. Here's a nice little altercation between a couple eagles here. So this is a long throw. Here we are zoomed in. And that's some motion blur on my end, 0.02 of a second, but I saw it happening, so I quickly started panning to pick up. Oftentimes I photograph with two eyes open, and I saw this unfolding out of the corner of my eye. Let's see if I slowed down enough. There we go. Very cool. Nice series. All right. Here's another occasion where the camera truly holds focus amazing. So I'm just going to go through these. This pair flying, cruising. Notice in the lower third down here is a handrail. That's from the outer wall of the dam walkway. And they're going to fly right along that handrail and even drop below it, and we're still holding focus because it's locked right on that head. Still holding focus. Holding focus. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. So I have made some adjustments on my camera. I was bouncing between, let me tell you exactly where I'm at here in our focus. So the focus cases, I was between case A, which is automatic, and then case 4. So I kept going back and forth because I'm not fully experienced yet with automatic. I know how I like my cases set up. So half my day was in case 4, half of it was in case auto. And the only way I could decipher which file was that is by bringing them into DPP, Canon Software Digital Photo Professional. And of course, that's the best raw decode, and it gives you the full file information. Good, good, good. See where else I could come to. Here's some ducks, low light, low contrast. I mean, barely enough light to see, right? And it holds focus, grabs focus. So all in all, it was a great safari weekend. Let me pull this back up. There we go. Great Eagle Safari weekend. Got some nice images, some good video clips that I got to pull out and work those up a little bit, and I will post them later in some new posts on Facebook. So let me know if you have any further questions. Thanks for joining. I will push this over to YouTube afterwards. So just kind of recap here. We had the R5 100-500, sadly has to go back to CPS. I still have my EF 100-400, works great, but it's a little bit heavier. R6, fantastic. I'm going to be using 2 of those for my remote backup cameras. My R5s will be my primary cameras. When I say backup, those are for my remotes. When I'm doing weddings and events, I do 2 remote cameras. And this will definitely be appearing in my camera bag. I could see going to Africa with the RF800, 100-500, RF1.4 converter, and an RF24-105, and you are set. But that's considerably lightened up my backpack. And speaking of backpacks, let me show you how I get all this out into the field. So this is the Mindshift Think Tank Moose Peterson backpack, but it fits the 600mm f4 lens in with the lens hood with the body on it. So I don't have to be adding the body and putting it together in the field. I could also put the 100-400, which I do in here, and then the third body with a 24-105 in here, and I trek it out into the field. Yes, the 600 f4 is a beast. It is heavy, but that's what I have for right now. I have not purchased a newer one because I'm waiting for the RF version, because I assume that's going to be smaller, better, faster, lighter, like all of the other RF glass. So I'll put this all in here, and I'll give you the overhead camera shot. I know I'm moving away from the mic, and I just have to turn the lens hood around so it'll fit, and it's in the bag. So I'll put this for the overhead cameras. All right, I'll move the mic. So here we go. This is how we get into the field. Make sure my levels are there. Good, good, good. So this is the R5 with the battery grip, the RF to EF adapter, 600 f4 version 1, lens hood. I have a couple of emergency rain covers in there. Put that bad boy up. In here is the R5 battery grip, 100-500. I could put a speed light on top in here if I wanted to, some other accessories. And then in here is where I'll keep extra batteries, extra lenses, or I could have the body already assembled, the R5 with the 24 or R6 with the 24-105 there. Another important thing is staying warm. So I have that syndrome where my hands get incredibly cold very easily. So I use a lot of these hand warmers, but these have been the best gloves that I have found. And I could put links to this stuff. So these are the heat glove system. These liners are amazing. They have your touch sensitivity, good grips. You could put a hand warmer in that pocket. And then what's great about these is when you're standing around waiting for something to happen, you put a hand warmer here and a hand warmer inside. And then you have these leather shells which are windproof and water repellent. What's amazing about these is when you want to, you can get your fingers out, one or all, and or your thumb, and they have magnets. So if I want to flip it back, have this hand out for shooting and this hand all warm, I can. So these have been about the best gloves that I've found for working in cold weather. Can't say enough. The Heat Company. And I'll throw a link in the comments below. So that's it, folks. That's all I got for you at this point in time. So let me know if you have any other questions, thoughts. Who wants to go on an eagle safari? Come on down. We could arrange that. And if you need help setting up anything, your lighting, your cameras, your camera settings, speed lights, off-camera flash, studio lighting, book design, workflow, editing and toning and culling and processing and all those sets of things, Dawn and I are available for one-on-one mentorships, and we do it via Zoom. So those have been going really well. We're happy to help and happy to pay it forward. So thanks again for joining us. Hope to see you in the future. Have a great evening.